Welcome to a special episode of the Network AutoMagic Show. We're joined today with two special guests from Juniper Network, Daniel and Thomas. Now, I'll let them introduce themselves in a little bit, but we're going to talk about two special things today. We're going to start off, because we made a little bit of a trade deal with Juniper to get access to Thomas and to get some insider information. So we're going to tell you a little bit about the launch of the new SSR platform, Juniper Mist from HPE Networks. I'm gonna get corrected on in which order I say the things, but that's okay. Now, the important part is this is going to be a two-parter. We're going to start off with a little bit of chat of the Mist platform, what is happening, why it's important, and then we're going to get an all-access pass to knowing what's going on with that API and why is Steinzi so in love with Mist, REST APIs, Terraform, etc. So just keep sitting in traffic. Turn up the AC. Get ready for a really fun ride because, me and Urs and these boys from HPE Juniper Networks, I think I got it right this time. HPE Juniper Networks, we're going to have ourselves a fun little episode. FYI, I am affiliated with Juniper Networks during my day job. I am a VAR. So I will definitely sell you an access point if you want to, but that does not have really any impact. Also, Urs is completely neutral. He'll call me out if I start chilling too hard. So, dear listener, we're going to have a wonderful episode. So, let's launch off with Daniel. Daniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Stein. Thank you for the invitation. Very excited to be on your podcast and, welcome to all of your listeners, wherever they are, whether they're in traffic, at home, or in the gym. I'm Daniel. I'm product manager in the Juniper Networks, or as we call it recently, HPE Juniper Networking AI native SD-WAN team. And I'm here to discuss some really exciting topics. So that's really the short and sweet for me.
Perfect. Now, listen, the wonderful thing about being in this fantastic team of yours is that you have two platforms to choose from. You've got an SRX, a wonderful firewall with a solid, strong legacy, and then we got the SSR, which came through a beautiful acquisition from 128T, and is actually, it's in my professional opinion, it is the best SD-WAN solution simply because of one magical component. All right, it's not the box, it's not the label you put on it. It's SVR, secure vector routing. So, just to give you an idea, listener, I haven't had to troubleshoot an IPsec tunnel in over 3 years. Okay, no MTU issues, no talking to the guy on the other side, which wouldn't be a problem with any platform because you could hopefully control both ends of your SD-WAN solution. If not, you have bigger problems. The main thing is that, having path MTU of 1500, no fragmentation, no CPU going 100% trying to reassemble voice packets or God knows what. It feels like magic when you're using it. And I got to tell you a quick story. One of the tests I did when I was evaluating this and all the other platforms, all the full stack platforms, I went through all of them 3 years ago. This is the only one I was able to play Counter-Strike on a server in London with failover to our data centers over 2 fiber links and just unplug one, and the sub-second failover actually worked. No configuration on my end. And I was able to, I'm not going to say I got any headshots in that game because I'm getting old. It's hard to click on heads. But simple fact of the matter is SVR. That's the magic inside of the SSR. You're going to be able to fail over a lot faster. You're going to be able to get a lot more throughput through the thing. And I know I'm pretty much, running through the whole races, Daniel, but it's the selective encryption. That, to me, when I was telling Urs about Mist, he didn't know about the SSR before I talked to everyone about the SSR. But the selective encryption, no double encryption needed if you don't want to force it. So it looks at the packet, it goes, hey, it's already SSL. Why am I going to double encrypt it? It's basically NAT on steroids. I throw a little frame in front of the flow, sends it to the hub, you're off to the races. There's no, advanced key exchanges or yada, 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 yada. It's just, it just works, no fragmentation. And to me, that is the strength of the platform. I mean, Daniel, did I say anything wrong?
No, you're spot on. And you made my job here, on one hand very easy because I can barely add something more. On the other hand, that makes it more challenging. But you're spot on. Depending on the source that you check today, between 85 and 95% of the traffic is already encrypted. And with the computers that we have today, it takes 20 years on average to decrypt the traffic. If one double encrypts it, that will probably make it 40 years to decryption. But does this add any additional security? Arguably, probably not for most of the cases, right? That's why our SSR, has selective adaptive encryption, and it does not double encrypt traffic that is already encrypted.
Mhm.
And
There's,
you are right. With the power of the secure vector routing, we managed to build tunnelless overlay that does not linger overhead back and forth on every flow and every session.
you wanted to ask our dear guest something?
Yes, of course. When I heard 20 years uh, to encrypt, I immediately have to think about quantum computing, right? And I believe I saw on the marketing slides that you support quantum computing. So, can you say something about this?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, we are pushing the boundaries of the industry. Juniper has always been doing this since the founding of the company 27 years plus back. And another direction where we are looking to innovate is, making sure that our products are quantum resistant. NIST here in the US uh, delivered the FIPS 203, 204, and 205 standards earlier this year, just 3-4 months back. And we are actively working on incorporating them in our Session Smart Router. We want to make sure that we offer the most comprehensive security to our customers all the time.
Which is, speaking as one of those customers and resellers, I can tell you it's pretty great. So the thing about, though, we can, if we ignore all the marketing slides and all the hype and all that stuff, like, and you take away all the shiny gizmos on the PowerPoint, what you're left with is rock solid foundational technology that was acquired from 128T. That when you leverage the Mist portal, you get even more out of it. There's selective features that have been not displayed to the user, basically hidden away and are automated. So, like, I personally don't want to be configuring forward error correction on this link versus that link and, twiddling all the nerd knobs. They expose enough nerd knobs for me to get everything done. And what I really like also about and this is going to come into our API conversation later, is that everything you see in the portal is what you get. So unlike some platforms where, the vendor gets to access this feature, and this feature, everything in Mist is up for grabs. So if you want to do something and you see it done somewhere, you can either automate it your own way, use the Python SDK, the Terraform. Like, it comes in this amazing ecosystem. And that's kind of what brought this episode together, is the fact that we have my personal favorite platform to work on, because one, it's simple and it lets you be complicated if you want to be. If you want to get weird, it'll let you get weird. But out of the box, the defaults, I mean, I just wanted to share the story that usually when you have like a CVE story, it's a horror show and you go, oh god, there was a 9 point something and oh, we had to patch in the middle of the night. Listen, last time I think it was earlier this year. I don't even, it was such a blip that we didn't even remember it at the office. There was this big SSR vulnerability and we were super worried. And then at the bottom of the note it said, hey, has already been patched before the release. Like, whoa, I don't have to do anything. It's patched before. What is this? What is this magic? I have never gotten a CVE on my desk that didn't involve a headache. And I just went, the biggest headache was explaining to people that they didn't have to do anything. Like, that was the big shocker. So of having a fully managed SD-WAN solution that, but you have the full stack, you got the switches, you got the routers, you got, this automation platform, you got everything you need in the box, and they're patching my security vulns for me. And occasionally, if they need to reboot, like this was a rebootless one, so they just did it for me, right? But if it's a harder one, you get an alert. Like, patching is one of those big hidden money sinks that we see. Like, the total, you can talk about, OpEx and CapEx and all these fun terms that the business people like to use, but it costs money to update stuff when you have to go and manually do this, that, and the other. Having the full auto solution on both the updates and, of course, for the failover handling, basically everything that used to require 2 or 3 network engineers to do, just letting those people go do other stuff for the organization has been a real or like there's a reason I was able to start a podcast. Like I have so much free time now after we started mystifying people that I can highly recommend it. Now, one of the funny things though is that we just got a new when this episode is released, the announcement will be out that there's the SSR400. So I'm very much familiar. I've been running my house for the last 3 years on the SSR100 and a lot of my customers. And one of the things that we wanted was a PoE port. What did we get now? We got a PoE port. What we wanted a switch? We got a switch now. So like every single thing that like it's one of those vendors that listens to the customer feedback and then they come back from the lab and they tell you, we got all the stuff that you wanted. Here you go. So I really have nothing to add to the SSR400 lineup. It's got inbuilt switching now, so you can have multiple APs and you can have PoE from that. So it's basically it's a branch in a box. You can have the built-in access point. You can have the dual WAN connectivity, all that good stuff, and it's silent, no fans, so you can plop it under a desk. I mean, what else do you want, guys? Did I miss anything of the highlight reel?
I can add a little bit more. Embarking on the journey to deliver the SSR400 series to the world was, a great decision of mine, and I enjoyed every moment of it. But, besides the obvious ones that you mentioned, Stein, like PoE ports and switching ports and 5G and built-in Wi-Fi, and fanless, absolutely. We removed all the moving parts, which makes the platform more reliable. We again pushed the boundary a bit further. We opted for power efficient CPUs. And why is that important? We have customers that deploy 20,000 of those devices, 30,000 of those devices, sometimes even more, and the power bill adds up over time. So if we can limit the greenhouse emissions and the greenhouse gases, at least by a little bit, that helps. If we can help to decrease the electricity bill for our customers, I'm sure that they will be grateful and thankful.
Oh, 100%. And not everyone lives in Iceland. Listen, every time somebody starts a service in Iceland, it's 100% renewable. We can call it a green cloud because everything's been 100% renewable for the last 15, 20, 30 years. Like since I was a boy, we haven't burned coal here. So that's not the case for around the world. So, every time I see the green sticker, I start to laugh a little bit like, I could run a diesel engine and it wouldn't impact anyone. But not everyone has, hydroelectric and geothermal power plants all over the place. And it's definitely good to see that you're moving along with it's not just greenwashing where you go like, oh, this particular charger is not included with the product or something like that. That's a big fruit company would try to pull on you, but rather than just focus on making sure the lineup is power efficient. And of course, with power efficiency, talking about power, guys, boot time. That's been a really big hit now with Juniper Mist for a little bit now. You had the fastest booting access points, then you had the fastest booting switches. Now you have the fastest booting WAN component. I mean, combined, it's always under 2 minutes. Like, you can go from blackout to back online in 2 minutes. And now, thanks to that new EX4000 series that you just launched, you got that instant power on feature. So your cameras, your access point, as soon as the switch gets power back on, before it's finished spanning tree or whatever it's doing, it immediately starts pumping out power on all ports, and that is a huge win in my opinion about just getting the site stable again, especially if there is power fluctuation. So, and now that's been brought to the SSR400 series. Like all the numbers I've seen so far, really sub 2 minutes, like just ready to go. So you got a really fast box, and it's coming along with the new Wi-Fi 7 rollout, and you got these new switches. So all the new stuff is really focused on fast boot times, great performance, great power efficiency. What's not to love? I mean, are we forgetting anything? I think like there's so much.
We should absolutely mention that the new SSR400 series was built for security. And we thought about security when we were in front of the whiteboard, when nobody knew what the device will look like or even what the CPUs of the device will be. We were committed to deliver a platform built for security, a platform that is cloud native and AI native, a platform that belongs in Mist. And I'm sure that by the time the episode goes live, your customers will hear and see more about this amazing new product.
Well, yeah, the IDP engine is one of my favorite features. It's because you could just flip it on, you select the level, you don't spend 3 weeks adjusting an IDP profile, and then you get it all. Because one of the big problems is, like, if you're going to a customer rollout, it's because where do I send the alerts? Like, once you deploy, like, do you have a SOC system in place, or do you have to, ad hoc it with emergency emails? Like, what are you going to do? And just having that all built into the solution with the same data path that the normal power outage or device offline or all that good don't, like, we haven't even mentioned Marvis yet, and like that's it's just goodness on top of goodness. And like they say, every month is like Christmas with Mist, because they patch and they give basically a feature release every month, and we get new stuff, and I can barely keep up because I keep just getting feature after feature after feature, and then I got to go to all my sites, and most of the time I don't even have to turn them on, like with the Marvis Minis rollout, where like, oh, we're by the way testing your data path based on your customer usage. Like, what? I don't have to do anything? Nope. Here you go. Here's the data. Happy SLE endpoint. Like, stuff like that, just compared to other rollouts where it's like, oh, we got a new feature. Well, let me load up the USB stick or get the remote server ready so I can start pulling down the firmware from my secure location. It's a joy to manage. And I mean, we can't mention like your biggest customer, like the biggest customer that you guys have, we can't talk about, but it's Blue. And you just have to, when you're shopping, look up into the ceiling and you'll see a Mist AP. And then you guys also took over the largest fast food chain in the world away from the Green brand, whoever they are. So
I'm
it's just
loving
been
it.
win after win after win. So, besides the Gartner Magic Quadrant, don't get me started on the quadrant stuff. You've been in the top right for 5 years. It's not even news anymore. Like, they have to start making new quadrants for you guys. But what I did also want to highlight is the fact that we're actually converging some switching features into the SSR400. So we're going to get some of that sweet TDR bad cable detection. And maybe tell the listener a little bit about what you're going to do for them on the switching front.
Um, great question. Something that I wanted to comment to your earlier statement. Our customers love the simplicity and ease of deployment of IDP and URL filtering. That's why we followed and we developed the antivirus and advanced anti-malware protection in the very same way. There are several predefined profiles. You pick the one that works best for you, and you're off to the races. And you're right. Juniper has been doing switching for so many years. We have, stellar switching stack, and now we'll make it part of the SSR. The same goodness that customers love and praise will be on the SSR now.
Like, some of the
That will
things that
help to
definitely
train Marvis and to get Marvis identify bad cables, mismatched MTUs, and whatnot 24/7.
because one of the great features that people don't realize is that you're getting is basically a TDR, a time domain reflectometry, built into every single switch port. So, like, just high level, that means if the cable is connected or if the cable is not connected, they're basically running testing on that cable, and based on the electrical pulse flying back at it, it can tell you if it's a crossed wire, this, that, and the other. And the main thing is, most of other switches can do a check. It's based on an active device. This means that I've had a real situation where there was a big meeting the next week, and they moved the podium, and then they actually sheared a cable that they were going to connect the main laptop to during the presentation. Hey, the CEO would have been standing on stage going like, why doesn't the cable work? But we were actually there a week earlier just going like, hey, now we saw that you sheared a cable, so we sent someone out to replace it. Nothing connected to it. And then you have Marvis pop up and go, hey, port this, go fix, thank you. So Marvis only calls you when he can't fix it himself. If he could lay wires, he would, trust me. But
That's a next release.
That's the
Maybe.
next release, like, as soon as we get the autonomous robots. And the big happy news, though, if you are familiar with the SSR platform and you have been through deployment and all that, and you've seen all the goodness and joy, The one thing that was really annoying was the bandwidth license. Like you had to go and quantify how big of a bandwidth utilization your site used. So do I need a gig? Do I need 500 megs? Yada, yada, yada. And then sales calls and nonsense. They got rid of that. Lots of people were complaining for like 3 years. This is a legacy thing from their acquisition. They were a software only company and then they became a hardware company when they joined Juniper. So now we get 3 tiers. We get standard, which is your mom and pop shop stuff. We get advanced with Marvis, URL filtering, intrusion prevention, solid middle tier, really good choice. Gotta get that Marvis. But the base one is also great. And then of course there's a premium one where you get the SSL proxy, the advanced threat protection, the antivirus, and the advanced security features.
And as part of premium analytics, we have what we call security assurance. That's the one-stop shop where one can see what has been going on in their network in the last 13 months, how the traffic profile changed, how the applications changed, and honestly, how the attacks changed. Who is trying to do some harm, go stop them and, make sure that the security posture is even better and better.
Exactly, because back in the day, if anyone's familiar with it, when Mist was only an access point functionality, the security tab was a little lackluster. You had honeypots and that sort of stuff, which is really important, right? But now the security portfolio is really getting fleshed out, and I, for one, am really excited. It's every single month we get an exciting update. So, Urs, you got any thoughts?
I was just now confused. Are you also working for Juniper?
Oh, dude.
You're really in love with
I've done.
with this,
I
right?
have been. I go to every I launch into my customer spiel sometimes because I've given this presentation a lot of times, and I love giving it. Like they can't, even when they want me to stop giving the presentation, I can't.
And you can talk for hours, right?
Oh, dude, like it's a 3 hour. Like the long one is 3 hours if I cover everything. Like to me, and it's an adventure. But no, but I do work for a partner, and I do enjoy. I like bringing quality enterprise network gear to the masses when I can. Now, talking about that, we have this amazing platform. We have all the goodness of the Juniper stack. What are we gonna? I think we have to automate some of it. We're an automation show, aren't we, Urs?
Absolutely. We love
That's what-
APIs.
That we do. And for the API part, I was wondering, Tomas, I hear that you have been a busy bee for the past year. Like there has just been release after release. So, Tomas, would you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about what you do for Mist?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Stein. So I used to be a Mist in the past, and I moved to the PLM team almost 3 years ago, mainly to focus on all the API integrations and automation part. So I'm mostly working on the, let's say, customer-facing APIs. So I'm not working on the backend, but I'm helping customers to use our APIs because we have a lot of them, something like more than 1,000 different endpoints. So it may be difficult from time to time to find the correct one. And this is mainly because, as you said before, everything that we can do from the UI can be done through the APIs. So you can do mostly everything. You just need to find the correct way to automate what you want to automate.
That's right. So I've been deeply involved with using stuff that Tomas has been supplying me for the past 3 years. Everything from the REST API to the Python SDK to the Terraform provider that's recently been released, and it's just been win after win. Now, what really makes me happy is the fact that, like we said, we can do everything that we see in the UI. So if I see, if I want to do some weird Grafana stuff and I want to collect some data and I want to make, redisplay it in a certain, condensed format, hey, I can just pull this endpoint, this endpoint, this endpoint, and I'm done. And that has not been my experience on a lot of other platforms. And just basically, we've taken the complexity of operating, a legacy style, not legacy, but, a classical, raw, if we were just running Juno sitting in the corner, I mean, it's beautiful. But operationally, we've just, shifted that whole thing left. We can just sit back, relax, focus on automation, creating beautiful dashboards, And of course, with the premium analytics stuff that we mentioned earlier, that's actually one of my favorite features, is because you can get those executive reports that are just ready to go, and you can have them just you put in the manager's email, and you just have them go out every so often. It'll tell you, how many visitors you have, how many threats, and that kind of brings me up to one of the things that might be interesting for the listener. Now, this API, this platform grew organically. It started as a Wi-Fi only platform many years ago. I believe in 20, it was 201 is how the year started. And you see some artifacts of natural growth, and that's might be really interesting to our listeners, is just how you've been handling growing over time, because first you had the access points, then you had the switches, then you got the WAN platform in, and you got two WAN platforms at the same time. So none of this is like, oh, so obvious, we'll name this endpoint, blah, 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 blah. Like the classic joke example is like the word edge is a difficult word in the API, just because we have the original mist edge, which is the drop-in replacement as a wireless LAN controller, basically. So if you architected your network to receive all the wireless traffic to a single data center or some central setup, going into the breakout, new, cool, modern way of doing it is a lot of engineering hours. So you can just drop and replace with a mist edge, but that took the word edge out of the lexicon, and that means that when we got the WAN edges, every time I do Control F and I'm going through the thing, I have to have, oh wait, I'm looking for WAN. I got to go into the WAN section, and that's that type of edge. Then we have the mist edge, which is the wireless one. There are some organic artifacts, and you can see this with any large enterprise API. Like you're gonna see some, either this team was working on this one and this team was working on that one, and then they were merged, and having one word overlap, I would call that a huge success. So could you tell us a little bit, Thomas, like having these three components come together? Any thoughts for our listeners?
In fact, we are trying to put all the complicated stuff on the backend. If you're looking at the gateways, it's the name that we are assigning to the WAN edges. From the API side, we have the same endpoints and the same payload for the SRX and the SSRs.
Yeah.
But it's two different OSs. It's two different ways to configure them. And in fact, you just need to know how to configure on the Mist side, and Mist will take care of the rest. It will generate the configuration for the SRX or for the SSR, or for both. Maybe you can use the same template or the same configuration for both platforms. So we are trying to make the things easier on the API side and to keep the complicated stuff on the backend.
So yeah, Urs?
Yeah.
What? Oh, Urs, you're muted, buddy. Like,
Oh, sorry. For someone who is not familiar with the platform, so if I understand it correctly, I configure the desired state, or nowadays I would say the intent, and Mist, the platform, takes care to translate it to the right configuration and to push it down. So if I use the API, do I get immediate feedback, or do I need to query afterwards if the job was successful or not?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So when you are sending the configuration changes to Mist, you will not send it directly to the device. So you are sending the API call to Mist. Mist will process that and send it to one or multiple devices. For example, if you are changing a template which is used by thousands of devices or tens of devices, Mist will take care of deploying the change on each and every device. So from there, when we are sending the HTTP response or the API response, we are not sending the fact that there's a new configuration that's been deployed everywhere. We are just sending that, okay, we are accepting the new request, and we will take care of that. And from there, so there are different ways to monitor if the new configuration is deployed successfully to the devices. The first approach will be the API calls. So we can query an API endpoint to get this information. But most of the time, what we will recommend is to use the webhooks. So in this case, we can send you the information proactively. So the webhooks, it's just like it's an MP trap for people that are not totally aware about REST APIs and all this kind of stuff. So, which means that when something is happening on the Mist cloud, for example, when the Mist cloud is getting the information that the device applied the new configuration, the Mist cloud will be able to send you the information on your server. It can be, any type of CM. Or any kind of HTTP server that can receive HTTP posts from Mist. And so you can directly get the information without having to query over and over the Mist cloud until you get the confirmation.
Mhm. Which is an extremely powerful. It's a paradigm shift. I mean, so if we think of Mist as just a massive controller for all the devices, right? That's one component of it. It's the monitoring, it's the alerting, it's the AI. I'm sorry, listener, I use the word AI, but they've been using the word AI before it became a buzzword. Okay, they've been using AI since like 2017, and they've been using it as a wrapper for a lot of unsexy machine learning and just hard work under the hood. Every time I say the word AI or Marvis, it's basically a code name for a lot of engineering hours, doing a lot of research and a lot of machine learning and a lot of handling for you, which, if you had some sort of super intelligence, I'm sure you could make your own. I'm going to make my own Marvis and Mist, and I'm going to deploy it on. Dude, ask your boss if you really he wants you to work on that, or if he wants you to just roll it out and get it done. I asked. They said they wanted to roll it out and get it done. So I recommend going this path just because the fact that, from an automation perspective, I got to cheat a lot. So I got Juniper Apstra in my data center, so I don't interact directly with switches when it comes to VXLAN. I got Juniper Mist on the enterprise side because that way I'm not interacting directly with the devices. So that means when I'm consuming their resources in automation tooling, it's a lot easier for me to work against the fact that, hey, they got me on the operation and push side. So they are going to, take care of all the state validation, all the conflict. There's no conflict drift detection because actually, you can log into some devices in some cases and start doing some weird stuff. Like, that's one of the fun things is they don't cripple any of their platforms. They'll let you get, if you really want to get on that CLI, there's a way. But do they highly recommend that you're changing configs in the middle of the night? No, please. We're managing it through this fine platform. But unlike certain other solutions, which either cripple the box, you have this beautiful box and then they cripple it to fit it into a cloud controller, or they take a native approach of basically Mist handles the wrapping. You get all the capabilities of the existing platform. And there were some rough spots 3 years ago, like especially when it was integrating the SRX and the SSR. You had to go down the exact happy path. You had to be careful not to do anything crazy Steinzi stuff, okay? So long as you stuck to the script, it was good. I went off script a few times. I burned myself badly. It was in the lab. I learned. I grew. So today, it's completely different. I can barely shoot myself in the foot with the Mist API stuff just because of one of my favorite stories is there was this SSR deployed in the middle of nowhere of Iceland. So Iceland is small, so it's like 8 hours drive to get to the top of the mountain where it was located. So that means that when you're patching it, you're a little bit like, do we have to worry about this device? No, not with Uncle Mist. What I did was a software rollout, basically, of a beta version of the SSR software because we wanted to test something out. We were running into some weather data, something. Doesn't matter. I was able to go click that update button, and then I went to get a coffee and to pick up my kids. And then I saw that, fun fact, the update actually failed. And did I panic? Did I, immediately have to drive into the side of the road and go, oh God? And no, because the box reloaded about 20 minutes later because I knew it was going to reload 20 minutes later with the old configuration back online going, hey, what I was trying to do didn't work, buddy. So we're going to have to try again. And this kind of, highlights the thing that it's not when things go right, it's when things go wrong that's important. And some of the, one of my most favorite features is the built-in troubleshooting ticket system. So I was able to just go right-click in the top right corner, get a ticket going, hey, the beta deployment didn't work. What's going on? Hour later, it was solved, pushed out, no issue. About 5 minutes work on my end, just typing in, my email address for hey, CC the email to this one. Thank you. And then I went to pick up the kids. So it's the power, basically, Urs, is the fact that they handle when things go wrong for you. So when you're going to either built your own, I'm going to push Juno as config directly to the box and I'm going to do it all, big caveman style. That's a very valid approach for some places, but you get so many benefits from the Mist platform. So this lets you automate a lot faster, and basically you get really nice errors back when you do some bad stuff. So does that answer your question, Urs, about like how it wraps all the devices that you have?
Yes, sounds nice. Sounds nice. You mentioned you have around 1,000 API endpoints, if I remember correctly. So
That's correct, yeah.
I assume there are a lot of nerd knobs also exposed for the customer if they really want to use them.
Yes. So there is two parts. The first one is, in fact, we are creating different API endpoints based on the different, let's say, products. We talk about the Wi-Fi, the switches, the WAN. We also have the access assurance, which is a cloud NAC. So at the end, if you are looking at each product, it's not so much different endpoint for each of them. But you can configure more things from the API through the API than from the UI. Some of the knobs are just hidden in the APIs because we don't want to expose them on the UI because it's just for a few customers, or because it's, let's say, deprecated. For example, web authentication for Wi-Fi.
WP, yeah, the old weep problem.
Yeah.
Like, I have this printer and it needs weep, and I respect the fact that they decided in the UI we're not going to show you Veep. It's a bad idea. So you go to the top right corner, you click the support ticket, you go, I really, really need Veep. I promise to disable it soon, but I really need it, and then they'll give it to you in like 30 minutes. So to me, that's
so we
pretty
can
amazing.
enable it on the UI, or we can just configure it through the APIs. And the other thing is, because let's say we are API first, so we are creating the API. When we are creating a new feature, we are creating the feature on the backend. Then we are creating the public API. Then the UI is using the public API. So you can see new feature that will come through the APIs. And I mean, the API will give you some information about what will be available on the UI.
And just to mention the fact that one of the nice things is that the reason why I pushed this platform originally was because it's a full stack, and that includes the NAC, and being able to not have a big third-party NAC solution sitting in the corner. Just being, most of my customers are Microsoft customers. I got to tell you the truth, and that means they got Intune or something like that. Being able to just, hey, we're going to push this to Intune, and then we're going to use that to set up the authentication. And being able to have basically a copy-paste script that handles deploying NAC for an enterprise. Oh, baby. Like, it was like the year 3000, and they got all sorts of, like, there's crazy security. Like, there's so much inside of Mist, and there's so many features, because every month you get a feature that I haven't even gotten to deploy some of them, just because I need to go call up so many people just to get permission to go, hey, I'm going to need a key for this and that. It's the stuff outside of Mist that is the problem. It's not as soon as you're inside of Mist, it's great, but it's dealing with the stuff that's outside of it, like getting the certs from the Microsoft guys and whatever. That's where the time goes. But just on the API side, one of the fun things that is, and I'm not sure we're allowed to share the URL, Thomas, but the Mist app lab portal, basically, like, where you got all the scripts from the past few years. Yeah, so it'll be in the show notes. Apps Mist Lab FR. I think you're moving the domain, so we'll update. Basically, there'll be a working link. So just to tell the user a little bit about that, like, it was a treasure trove when I first came into Mist, because you open up the Python SDK, which is a wonderful SDK, but it's an SDK, right? And you're like, okay, so what are we going to make? What are the possibilities? And on the side, I'm validating all the software and hardware, and making sure that they're not bamboozling me like some vendors do, making sure that the Kool-Aid is real. I got to see a lot of interesting stuff, like the everything from the pre-shared key self-service stuff to an actual wrapper to create, like, there's no SNMP in this thing. There's, like, you can get some webhook alerts out, you can do all sorts of outbound alerting options, but if you really need an SNMP gateway, like, they have this pre-written thing that I'm sure some customer really needed that lets you monitor. I believe I tested it on the APs or whatever. So you could expose like a fake endpoint that showed you the status of the access point, just an SNMP wrapper for the actual missed alerts. So there's a
Yeah.
ton of interesting stuff. Thomas, you want to tell us a little bit about some highlights here?
Yeah, so this one was more proof of concept, so it's working.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will not recommend to use this one in
No,
production.
why would you? SNMP, dude.
But in fact, I did a lot of things before moving to the PLM role, and I moved to the PLM role also because of that. I created different applications and tools to help partners and customers to explore the missed APIs. The missed APIs are not too complicated. They are mostly following the UI structure. But when you are discovering, and especially for network engineers are not used to use the APIs. They are used to use the CLI. But when you are asking them to use Postman, it may be okay. But when you are asking them to write a Python script, it may be a bit more complicated. So on this website, there is different links to different GitHub repositories with, for example, an extension that is helping to discover the different API calls that the UI is doing based on the URL you are on. There is a library of Python scripts, which is using the Python SDK, so it can be used to to back up your whole organization, or to change configuration on devices, to generate reports, and so on. And it can be just a foundation for you to create additional Python script. If you have specific use case, you don't have to start from scratch. And in addition to that, there is some small web UI application that it's mostly a showcase to expose what we can do with APIs. One more time, network engineers are not really familiar with API, so it's easier for them to understand what we can do if we are showing some demos and some real examples, rather than just saying, okay, you can send this API request and you will get this information.
Yeah.
That's need to demo and showcase what we can do and to help.
That sounds great. Yeah. So I assume the API is documented with Open API spec. Open API spec. Yeah.
Of course, baby.
And if I heard that there are 1,000 endpoints, kind of course, there are a lot of duplicated or similar. I assume you kind of generate part of the SDK and the Terraform provider, or is this all manual work? How do you do this kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, when we started, or when Mr. started in 2017, the Open API specification or Swagger at this time was not really popular. It was still the beginning. So the developers started to create a documentation with just Markdown documentation, which was okay at this time because the number of API calls was limited. But with the time, it was just too complicated to maintain and to keep up to date. So we now have an Open API specification, which is it's something like 100,000 lines. So it's not the easiest file to maintain, but it's working great, and we can have some information when we are adding or when you are modifying some endpoint. So we just need to update the Open API specification.
And just the rate of change. You have these 3, 4. I don't even know how many ways we can actually tell you how big the compass of missed as on the management side. The access points, the switching, the 2 different WAN platforms, and the fact that you can automate against, like, I had a conversation at AutoCon with someone who was thinking about getting into layer 7 automation, so automating access rules and that type of thing. And he was running into a lot of issues because basically you end up either with some translator libraries like, okay, I want to open up UTP from this source address to this destination on all my sites. And, in theory, it sounds like it's going to be kind of easy. It's not, right? Like just the fact that you can automate against a platform where you define your application and you can define your source networks and your destinations and all this good stuff. It's a game changer when it comes to definitely doing your first automation rollout, because you get to automate something that can both work on a firewall and on an SSR platform, and the config looks and feels the same. Quick caveat though, like the order of the rules matters on an SRX. It does not matter on an SSR. Those are like that's the big, aha moment that you have with the SSR. It's like, oh, it's just most specific session flow. Oh, okay. The number on the left-hand side is just for show. Great. I spent Christmas just being really confused, having both platforms side by side. That was 3 years ago. Today, it's a lot easier. And actually, it's too easy. I'm worried. Like that, they say the AI is going to come take your job, but like, I think Marvis is going to be making my config rules any day now.
I mean, it's just freeing you up some time to do something else. It will
Mhm.
not do everything. It will just help you on your day-to-day job.
Like this
Yeah,
podcast, because I can quit early and do stuff like this now. I used to be working myself to death, and now I'm like, I should make up new projects at work just to look busy. So we got just to get a quick hint though about the Open API guy. That guy is heavy, man. Like any big Open API spec, like if you're using the web UI thing, it gets sluggish. I usually have to open up Chrome and have it eat 6 gigs of RAM or something. That's with every one of my vendors or any endpoint. Like soon as you're over a certain size of anything, like a real API spec, it turns real sluggish real fast. So I've been really impressed with some of the derived stuff that you guys have, like the Postman collection is super handy because you have they have both they have like two versions, or not two versions. They have like the mainline one, which follows the versioning. And then they have the practical one where they do practical stuff and they show you like, oh, you want to create a site or deploy this or that and the other. Basically, so you don't have to go hunting and packing for something that's really an obvious workflow, and you get two options, or you get a lot of options. You can both use the Chrome extension and see the API endpoint, but the Chrome extension is amazing, but just having that pre-made stuff ready in Postman, it's kind of a game changer, just because not any of the other vendors that I deal with on, especially the Postman side, it's like the redheaded stepchild. It's forgotten in the corner somewhere, but this thing gets updated like crazy. And I keep running the old version because I forget to pull in the new one sometimes. But Thomas, it's the Postman. We have the Open API spec. We have the other thingy, which I forget what it's called, but it doesn't matter. There's you've pretty much done all the ways that anyone has asked you to be able to interact with the platform. Like that's pretty much it. Like the only thing that's missing is a native Ansible module, but thankfully you guys chilled out and you went with Terraform, and I've seen the light and it makes a lot more sense. And I had to roll an in-house Ansible module for Mist, and I don't want to do that again. I just want to use Terraform now. So can you tell us a little bit about the background, when it came to rolling out the Terraform provider?
Yeah, and first, why Terraform instead of Ansible? It's my point of view on that is mainly because Ansible is to be able to configure devices directly. So when you want to deploy the same command to 100 of switches, you will mostly use Ansible, and Ansible will get connected to each and every switch and push the configuration, get the feedback, and provide you the report. But when you are starting to work with cloud managed solutions, like it can be Mist, but it can be AWS or Azure or any type of cloud solutions, you will mostly start with Terraform to be able to provision and deploy the resources and the configuration.
Exactly.
And we got the request from a pretty good partner 18 months ago, from Stein, look at the possibility to provide a Terraform provider. And we also had the same requests from some customers for big project and so on. And it's something that I wanted to look at, and so it was a good opportunity to start that. And in
That's
fact, Terraform is proposing different type of tools that can be used to generate, let's say, part of the code from the Open API specification. So the Open API specification is a foundation for a lot of different things. It can be for the SDKs, it can be for the Terraform provider, it can also generate the Postman collection if we want. And yeah, so it started like this, let's say a bit more than 12 months ago. And so we now have customers that are deploying full stack networks all over the world with hundreds of or thousands of sites that are directly managed by Terraform.
It's that scalability. You gotta love it. I wish I had enough devices here in Iceland just to justify the scalability need. I usually I could run anything. Like I could go. There's 4 routers in my country, dude. Like I don't need all the scalability, but there are others who do, and they get it. But yeah, on the Terraform front, like I was amazed how fast you and your team were able to just get this thing on the road and get all the necessary features out. And the best part is though that I as an Apstra shop as well, with the integration with the data center fabric interconnection and all, like Apstra has its own Marvis now. It's not as good as the as Miss Marvis. Like the OG Marvis is the best Marvis, but it's getting along and it's doing a really, like, Apstra is an amazing product. It's the best data center fabric manager in my opinion. But the fact that we get a Terraform provider for Apstra and we get a Terraform provider for Mist means that pretty much my whole stack, like the only stuff that I don't have a Terraform provider for is weird internal tooling and Navision billing stuff and just really boring stuff. So that means you can basically automate your whole data center to corporate camper edge journey with the same tool stack. So that to me is insanely powerful when it comes to drift detection. And Urs, we've been doing some tests with the wonderful guys from InfraHub around basically mapping, hey, I have these 30 customer sites, I want them to push to Mist, and I want to be able to accept it also into Apstra. And just, one click, basically end-to-end MSP journey stuff. It's a crazy time to be alive. Urs, you have some thoughts?
I have some questions.
Mhm.
When it comes to Terraform, I always think about the ID, the internal object ID. Because there are some providers, they are better. There are some providers, they are not exactly top notch, right? And for me, if I understand it correctly, it comes many times back to this ID. So how do you compare an object with your state? So in Mist, does every object has a UUID or how do you do this?
Yeah, that's how they
Ah.
solved it.
Okay. I
Every
see.
time you are creating a new configuration object or you are claiming a device, you will have a read-only ID, which is a UID, and we will use this information in Terraform to identify the object.
And it follows it through its entire life cycle. So, if I have an access point or if I have a piece of config that says network 10.0.0.0/8 inside of that org, so it's org specific, but it's universal on your backend. But that's where it, that's the main difference is, like, when we hear a lot of people talk about automation tooling and that sort of thing, it's like, yes, for just the enterprise use case, it's great. Yes, it works. Oh, the endpoints are wonderful. But as soon as you broaden your scope and start to look at the MSP options, Mist handles those really nicely, for me at least. It allows me to both, navigate security-wise between different customers, orgs, and that sort of thing, and use my tooling in such a way that it's reusable between them. And what changes is the UUIDs and, the occasional name of a router or whatever. So that's really powerful. But like you said, there's like some providers, especially like when people go on a soapbox in certain Slack channels and start going, Terraform is terrible for network automation. And I start shaking my head going like, oh boy, somebody has an agenda. I remember Uncle Mist has us covered in this case, because in generic, let's say like there's a Terraform provider I'm currently failing a lot of GitHub bugs with a certain vendor that shall remain nameless. They use the ID on the VLANs of the interface, the VLAN number, and it is pretty terrible because also that vendor starts to change their naming rules occasionally, and it's not a good time. And basically, not having that UUID is a real, it's a bit of a painful point versus having something that's very, the Mist one is very Azure and AWS. Like when it comes to resource, having that UUID, it feels like you're just talking to a cloud service instead of talking to a box. And that is the big difference. Like people who come and say Terraform is terrible for network automation are usually coming from that per box and having many boxes, having to use TerraGrunt or having to use some Terraform wrapper technology. That's usually where that opinion is founded from. And they end up drifting to Ansible or just pure Python or whatever. And, God bless them. If they're able to get their job done, I'm not going to tell them what to do, right? If you're getting those paychecks, keep going, my guy. But like, this is the good life, Urs, right?
Yeah, it sounds good, right? And I think you cannot compare box by box configuration and talking to
A
to an,
controller or a
a-
cloud platform.
the cloud platform and specify the desired state or the intent, right? That's two completely different ways. And as it looks, the API and the object modeling is well engineered, so that makes it much easier to develop a provider who does not sucks, right?
Yeah,
So
I think Thomas has it too easy. I wish that he has if he had a worse API to work on, his life would be a lot harder. There's like a lot of problems that you have when you're coming in and mystifying cloud engineering an existing product and solution. And unfortunately, not every your competitors certainly, and not everyone succeeded. But that, like, I had the privilege of going through everything 3 years ago, and again a year ago, going over the comparison of just quality of life versus like how friendly they are for the engineer. And there is a reason why I am on this Mist soapbox. Like, it's not because they suck, I can tell you that. And occasionally Mist has sucked, and you know what happens? They fix it. They fix it in like the lightning speed. Before I can get my the phone number of the product owner at vendor X, it's usually fixed in Mist. Like Thomas has a speed record. Like he fixed like a Python dependency that I needed to have upgraded. He had it done in less than 14 minutes after I sent him an email on, or no, it was a GitHub issue. I sent him an issue. 14 minutes later, he fixed it. Like
that's
that,
AI.
that I'm telling you. Like
That's
Thomas
Marvis.
I
is
cannot
yes.
guarantee this.
It's all artificial intelligence. I'm starting to think Tomas isn't real, and this is some NVIDIA Juniper hybrid technology that we're talking to right now. So that's some
Maybe.
subhuman. It could be, right? So the main point is that I have seen dirt under every fingernail that I've looked at all the vendors, and it's the least dirt here. And when there is dirt, it gets fixed. And that to me is much more important than being perfect, because nobody has developed for me the perfect network automation solution for every single thing that a crazy person like me can want and think of. And some of the stuff you should not implement. Do not implement everything I ask for. I'm crazy. The thing is, though, when you have this really agile team, like you can see it month after month, just read the release notes and compare other solutions, free, not free, paid, not paid, doesn't matter. Nobody can beat that velocity. Like I could stand in front of the judge and I can survive that allocation. Nobody beats the velocity of the Mist team, like hands down. So what I'm really excited about now is just how, especially inside of HPE as a big org, it's a really big org, right? There's a compute section, there's a network section. Like it's a huge business. I am really excited about seeing how mystification is going to affect the networking business at HPE. And I dare say, listeners, everyone who deals with HPE knows that it is a big company. Like it's a big, big company. Like we're talking like this is finally a challenger to Papa Cisco. Like there's finally going to be a proper fight in the network industry, and the winner has not been determined up front. Like this is an exciting time to be in this industry, and my money is on Papa Mist right now because they did a great job coming into Juniper. Like I was worried when I saw Mist go into Juniper. I was like, oh God, are they going to assimilate? It's going to turn into one of those bad acquisitions. No, did great. They get acquired again. I think they're going to do great because they've got some really determined leaders in there. And, not to name names or anything like that, but like if you look at their top staff, it's all founding members. And so long as it's still founding members at the top, I am very confident in just that velocity. So coming back to the automation point, like I got to get off this like this love letter. I keep glazing that Miss Donut every chance I get. I had given up in 2017, 2018. I had given up on the network industry. I thought we were going to have the same brown box, the same CLI for the rest of my life, and I'd gotten into the wrong thing, okay? And then we get this, and life was good, and there was a path out, and I get to see my kids, and I'm not on these endless update voyages or, decrementing this and upgrading that. Like, I know it sounds like an exaggeration, but like, I'm a better dad because of this platform, just because my customers are happy and I'm happy. And it sounds like I'm getting a large paycheck from Papa Juniper after this episode, but I can tell you, no money has exchanged hands. In fact, I've paid them a lot more money than they have. I think I've gotten like 2 steaks dinners in the past 3 years. So I should be getting checks, honestly. But honestly, listener, if you go check it out, how you check it out, and this is a key differentiator. You can actually lab up in a virtual environment the WAN and the switching layer inside of Juniper Mist. So what you can do is, and no other fully managed cloud platform does this. You can spin up your SSRs. You're gonna have to contact some people to get some images and that sort of thing. They are more than willing to help 99.9% of the time. The only time they can't help is when you want to do something really stupid with those images, like I'm not going to just send you the images. Do not stop sending me emails to send you the images. I can't do that. But you get your hands on those images, you put them into EVE-NG, or we should check on the container lab angle that
Yeah, I was thinking about.
because they got the EXL. Now they got basically a virtual layer 2 switch that you can onboard into Mist and manage there. They got the VSSR, which is their VM the virtualization of the SSR, and of course the VSRX. And you can actually spin up this whole shebang inside of a lab, and that's where we got a lot of our automation testing done, is just by spinning up one of those environments. And you can actually just test your push out and deploys. And the fun fact is with the templating, and again, we're moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour here, listener. I'm sorry. I just get really excited about this. Is the fact that you don't need to set up the lab. You can actually just automate against a template, because it'll error out if you do something really, really bad inside of the templating. You can just go online right now. You can sign up for a Mist org at, I'll put the link down below. So you create an account. You get an API key, you get a platform, whatever, but there's nothing, there's no devices, but you can work on the template. And that means you can start using the API to do stuff. Now, if you get some test gear sent, and they'll send you a POC kit. Like, this is the easiest company to get stuff sent to you from. Like, they will be at your door just going like, hey, I heard you heard about Marvis. Well, what are we going to do, baby? So you're going to have a hard time getting rid of them, because, you're going to keep wanting more. So you go get the VMs running, okay? You get the VM running. You bring it up into Mist, and that means that you have virtualized devices where you can test failover and all that inside of your virtual environment, connected to the internet, and you can pretty much set up almost a one-to-one with. There's edge cases like the on Campus Fabric, which is an advanced technology, like it's their EVPN VXLAN management. You can do some of the stuff, but you can't do all of the stuff. But if you are doing routing, SSR stuff, like anything the SSR can do, it could do inside the virtual one, because of the fact that 128T was a software company first, and it really shows because they have really good VM support. So, Urs, I got to get off the soapbox. Please interrupt me.
Yeah, I have 2 things. So
Yeah.
one, I would really be impressed and happy if everything would be a Docker container, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I was wondering, for the next ordering I have. Is there a promo code like Steinzi
Oh,
to
yeah, Steinzi
to
123,
okay.
30%
Yeah,
off.
yeah. 30, okay, that's great. Yeah, I like that.
But on the Docker container side, I mean, the base, you can do the CSRX, which is the firewall. So you can do the containerized version of the firewall. You can bring that one online. I don't think you guys have like it's still a fully VM based thing. We could actually bring those online inside of Container Lab, right? Urs?
Yeah. In fact, I did the test 1 or 2 years ago, so it's possible to. There is some documentation on the Container Lab website to convert the virtual EX, so the switch, the virtual switch, and the virtual SRX into containers. So it's working. It's consuming. I mean, you need to have enough resources, CPUs, memories, but it's working fine.
Mm-hmm. And that's the stuff that I was running EVNG. So that was 3 years ago, before like Container Lab was like really Container Lab. And I still love my EVNG just because, you drop in a VM and I have so many virtual resources. Like, I love my job. I get so many perks. So I have a billion gigs of RAM. So I've never run into this issue, but it just comes from the real world. And that's actually a really good point. The container is a lot friendlier when it comes to running stuff. But then again, if you're looking at this is top right corner Gartner enterprise grade stuff. Like, this isn't a Ubiquiti mom and pop shop router. So you got to be doing this as a business or like as a serious player. For students, there is a way usually, if you ask really nicely, to get the images. If there's something like that, like anyone can get the images usually just soon as they sign the blood oath that you don't do the thing with the thing. And most of the time, very friendly Juniper SE will help you. But not everyone is Steinzi, and not everyone gets like their feature added immediately. But I've noticed that like one of the interesting things is, before, like, first thing I saw in Mist was the idea portal. Like, that's something that before I knew anything about the platform, I was like, what's that little light bulb over there in the UI? There's a little light bulb in the UI. You click it, and it's an idea portal. You can upvote ideas and platform changes and that sort of thing. So that's like one of those, nobody else is doing that. Like, usually it's like send to an email that goes nowhere, right? But you have comments from other customers as well, and Mist staff, and that's like inside that platform. Urs, you had any question?
So with this idea portal, I guess the first feature you have now is daily meme, or how does it work?
Daily meme. I
Yeah.
want memes. I want Marvis. Dude, I have so many Marvis memes. I have 3 folders. That's like 3 gigs worth of videos and stuff. Like, oh my God, dude, it's terrible. But dear listener, don't believe anything I said. I could be lying to you. I could be lying about this whole platform. It might suck terribly. I suggest you go find out. Like, soon as you see the magic, first, skeptical me goes, oh God, it's AI hype bubble. They're probably paying Steinzi in gold bullion. Dude, just do yourself a favor. All right. If you're tired of the same old incidents, of the same old CVE security patching, of the same old bad APIs, and the same old unresponsive big vendor that shall rename nameless. If you're tired of that, I suggest you convince your boss or yourself, if you are the boss, to go take a look, because I think you're going to be really surprised at how real it is. And of course, I'm glazing the donut a little bit. Like, occasionally, you still have to go and like read some stuff, and you still have to go click some stuff to get it running. But once it's running, it feels like magic, and that is just makes me a happy camper. So, just, dear listener, do yourself a favor. And now I'm going over the show notes. We've of course talked about some of the beautiful things around virtualizing the platform, the SDKs and that sort of thing. Have you noticed, Thomas, this is, we have you on, like, you're inside of a very big org right now, like, and you have a lot of teams, right? You have the switching team, and they're of course under the same mega manager, and really good structure, actually, really good structure compared to other places. Like, when a feature is getting delivered and that sort of thing, like, keeping sync. Like, I imagine that a lot of time goes to just keeping an eye on all the things that are moving internally, because it's a big place. Like, what are some of the challenges that you see, from the inside out about, delivering these tools to the network engineers and dev professionals?
On the API and automation side, do you mean?
Yeah, or just whatever.
Yeah, I mean, our approach is pretty. We are trying to limit the friction. For example, when we are bringing new features or when we are changing, for example, the payload from a configuration object, we'll make sure that it is not adding breaking changes. So just a quick example, for example, we used to have 2.4 and 5 years access point in the past. So there was an attribute to define if we wanted to broadcast the SSID in 2.4, 5, or both bands. And when we added 6 GHz access points, so this approach was not working anymore. So we added a new attributes, which is now a list. And which means that we are still supporting the, let's say, the legacy way. So if people are creating an application, some kind of automation that is still using the legacy approach, it will still work. They don't have to change the code, and if I created some automation on my side, I don't have to change anything. But if I want to use the 6 GHz ready one, then I can update my code and use the new attribute. So everything that we are doing on the API is following this type of approach. And this is also important because, the MIS UI is using the public APIs. So if there is big changes or if there is something which is not tested, validated, it will have an impact on every customers and not only the customers that are doing automation.
So basically just keeping the ship running. So, as soon as you're working, you're going to keep working. And that's really important to a lot of places that don't have dedicated dev resources. They might be able to get a contractor or something like, hey, implement this workflow, click, click, click. And it doesn't break every release. It just keeps working and it keeps rolling out the same way that you expect it to happen. And software release happens, etc., etc. And that's the beauty, at least in my mind, of dealing with the cloud platform / controller for this thing is that's where the buffer lives, right? If this was a physical platform, it'd be really hard to do this on a physical platform, that be able to survive all these changes and that sort of thing. I'm not impossible, but I've never had a vendor or any gear that actually survives like that. Versus having this nice buffer layer in the Mist cloud that it sits between you and the devices, and you just keep automating the way you're used to automating, and it just keeps working. Now, one of the things, just so that we're 100% transparent with our users, is I have this in my show notes. There is a situation where you do not have direct access to exactly what you see, but you do, which is that beta API flag, or when you see the beta in the API string, that means it's not been documented in the release notes. Any comments on that, Thomas? Like, should I be using the beta ones?
It's not. I don't think that's the beta one, but in the API it would be API labs instead of
Yeah,
API
labs.
V1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's mostly you can use them. The only thing is those type of APIs are not documented publicly, so we can change them without any without any information. So by using this type of endpoint, we may break your automation at some point. Most of the time, it should not be required. Most of the time, you have all the required information with the API V1 official public API endpoint. Or you can retrieve information with the webhooks or other ways. So you can, but you should not.
Yeah. Usually the only times I ever messed with it was then I noticed it and that made me want to look at it even more. It's usually during the rollout, just like, we just released the feature, and then that endpoint is gone basically 30 days later. It's usually some visual stuff or something like that, like, not relevant stuff. But there's a lot under the hood in the Mist API, especially on the security stuff like that. There's a lot of buttons there, like, that the security nerds might complain. If they look at the UI, they might go, oh, it doesn't have this button or that button. Like, dude, it's in the API. Like, if you really want to go nuts and you want to see like the whole special K version of the security event, for example, like one of the comments that I once got was like, but it's missing the blah blah flag in the security event. And I was like, dude, look at the REST API. Like, this is like 50 fields or something like that. Like, have all the information you want. Like, what would you like and why would you like it? I don't know why I want it. I just wanted it. Good. Urs, you had a thought?
Yeah, I was just thinking, how is it your platform must have this capability, right, for auditing and versioning of the configuration, or kind of following who did at which time which configuration? How does
Yeah,
this work
so
with the API?
so we are keeping the list of all the users that are accessing the organization and all the changes that have been done on the organization. So
Audit log.
we in the audit log. So we can exactly say that Stein on Friday at 7 p.m. he did a change on this device. For example, he changed the name. So we can exactly know what was the configuration before and what is the configuration after the change. And so we can provide this type of information through APIs, but we can also use the webhooks. So if you want to store this type of information or create some kind of security rules on top of that, we can send you the information as soon as someone is accessing the organization or doing some changes, and you will be able to apply additional processing on that and create your own type of alerts based on the audit logs.
Yeah. But could I also kind of roll back? Let's say Stein on Friday does a strange change and breaks everything. Can I just say on Friday morning it was still running? I want to have this version now.
So this is something.
Yeah.
That's a valid case.
That's a very valid case, but I can tell
can
you
do
how
it
we
with
solved it.
Terraform.
We solved it 3 years ago. Like, this wasn't a native part of the platform. We were like, well, it would have been nice, but then we had a little think, and then we realized we're always working with a template. Like, everyone's locked out of applying. You would get executed if you applied directly on the device. So there's 3 layers in Mist. There's the org layer, there's the site layer, and then there's a device layer. You can apply config at any of these layers, and the closer you get to the, usually it depends, but usually it's the closer you get to the device, that's the one that overrides. Now, what we do is that, let's say that we're doing a change, and the built-in rollback is amazing. Like, if I screw up and I disable the WAN interface or something like that, and I lose connectivity, right? It'll roll back and go, this is really bad config you sent me. Let's not do this, buddy. Config failed. Bleh. However, what we do is we clone the template that we're actually applying. So let's say, basically applying a sort of versioning inside of the templating system. That lets me have the spoke template for this customer is version 001 whatever. Clone that to the next number, update it, and then if the customer requires basically change window management, you're not actually allowed to do any changes unless it's during these hours. Some places require that. We only apply and push when it's allowed. So that pushes the new template, pushes it. If we need to roll back, we actually roll back to if it was a bad thing, it will all roll back to the existing config, but we can actually just apply what was there before, and we keep a pretty long list of templates sitting around. So that's one of the ways that we solved it practically. But of course, with the Terraform, and if you go full in, Urs, we can just automate this whole thing, baby. We can just keep the Terraform in Git, and we can just keep going that way if you really want to have full version control, man. Like, Thomas, is that a reasonable way to handle basically versioning and rollbacks on the devices, or is there anything new?
Yeah, so first thing is it's something that we are looking at. It's more complicated than it seems to be.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that, I mean, we got the request from different customers, so we are looking at that. Your approach is when only dealing with the UI or through the API is a good approach. And it can also be used to test and validate the new template, the new version against a canary site, a site that you want to use to test and be sure that the new configuration is not breaking anything before sending the changes to thousands of sites. So that's a good best practice, let's say that. And otherwise, yes, currently one of the possibilities to use the Terraform provider and to use a Git repository to store all your versions of configurations.
Which is that is a lot of overhead, of course, to do the full Git one, especially if you're doing like resource IDs on the resources themselves. You can get into a lot of sprawl really fast with the Terraform provider. That's why we've been experimenting with this mix and Urs of with the infra hub, similar to some of the stuff we talked about with the firewalls and that type of thing, is to have like basically a mini version of the missed resources inside of infra hub. Like, hey, I have this site and I have this rule and that sort of thing. And then the Terraform provider just runs basically whenever, and it goes, hey, thrift detection, or hey, I see there's been a change. I'm going to authorize me to apply it. Great. Pushes it to the site. And if it fails, we actually use just the Git to roll back the whole thing and delete the site or, roll back. But as Thomas points out, there is, especially when you're dealing with a big platform like this, implementing a version control system, if it was a couple of clicks, they would have done it. Okay, like I know they would have done it, but they probably found Pandora's box somewhere, and we have a crack team, top women and children working on it day and night somewhere in some camp somewhere, just trying to get us the version control that we deserve. However, I haven't run into any breaking issues that way, and I like. The worst thing I can say about Mist is it's not going to win any beauty pageant awards for some of the UI elements. But you know what? That means that there were engineers who made it. And if it was the engineering team that made it, that means that it is engineering first. And that's what I like, because they're API first, then the UI. Pretty fluff really comes in last. They're very practical and pragmatic when it comes to fluffing, because you can have like a worthless platform with the most beautiful web JavaScript framework, drag drop, all the fancy things that you would have in like almost a video game, right? But the underlying platform, if that isn't solid, all the bells and whistles really don't work. And I, for one, don't want to spend my life looking at the panel. I want the stuff working in the back end, and I have to interact as little as I can with it when it's working fine. Only when it's not working fine, which is very rare.
But I like Shiny.
But you like Shiny, I know. I can write you. That's the thing. We have access to the API. I can write you a wrapper. You pay me, I'll make you the most beautiful, useless wrapper for Mist, and whatever else you want, right?
You vibe code it, right?
Yeah, I'll vibe code it. I'll vibe code the heck out of it. Like,
Yeah.
Marvis will be blushing, like, stop using AI like that, Steinzi. So practical automation wise, I mean, we talked about some automation scenarios, which is like the site pushes and that sort of thing. And of course, the fun thing is you don't have to automate everything day one. You can go for little slices of the platform, like, hey, I need to do something with the SSIDs, or I need to do something on the security side, which is really exciting now with all the security capabilities coming in. And they've actually been there for a really long time. They're just being talked about a lot more right now. Like, Juniper isn't amazing at marketing their stuff. They should rule the world like 2 or 3 years ago, honestly. But like the marketing push isn't like, they spend all their money on the engineers and that stuff, and they don't do enough fluff and tiddly bits. Like that's been a complaint about Juniper for a while. But you know what? It works.
They have you now.
They have me. I'm glazing it.
Yeah.
Listen, if we're gonna get some FCC cease and desist at some point. Like there's a lawsuit coming. I'm gonna go too far one day. But so when it comes to choosing a framework, it really depends on what you're trying to do, in my opinion. Like if it's a really one thing. This is multiple components, right? It has to work standalone, all components as well. So like the more Mist stuff you get, the better it gets. 100% agree with that statement. Like as they say, the worst day in Juniper, the worst day in Mist is the day you install it, because it just keeps getting better. I know it sounds like a lie, but it's not. I'm telling you. Now, I wouldn't believe anything I say. Again, listener, go check it out on your own, and you can call me, and I will refund you the minutes that you spent listening to me. If I am wrong on this, like I guarantee it, you are gonna like what you find. Now, the thing is, though, you have these multiple components. You have a WAN component, you have a NAC component. They have to work independently. So inside of the API, you might have multiple. The one that pops up usually is like, hey, users. We have both AP users and we have switch users, and then we of course have what the WAN sees, which I forget how that looks right now. But basically, because they have to work independently and they have to work together, that means you go to the lowest common denominator, which is you have the API talk about each individual component. So there isn't a global like user wrapper like for switch AP and WAN. So you're going to have component data. You might have, like, let's say the applications that you're looking at, they're in the access points. They have a really, really nice application engine in there, but it's a lot nicer. Daniel has a much nicer application engine on the SSR because that's a full-on security appliance, right? That's a box that's designed for that stuff versus an access point, which, of course, with all the magic in the world, it would cost $1 billion if it had the same capabilities as an SSR. So practically, you're going to have application information that's on the access point level, and you're going to have application information that's on the switch level, which is part of their new rollout, which is really cool. So if you just had switching standalone, they basically try to give you as much as they can with whatever platform that you have. But that means that you might be looking at the wrong place when you have the whole stack. So one of the examples is like if you check out the application usage of a particular endpoint and you're seeing, hey, they went to undisclosed website in the access point layer, you might see, like exactly what they were doing or malware they were downloading or whatever that the AP couldn't recognize based on its engine because they can't take the whole. It's either a tuple processing thing or it always comes down to CPU and RAM at the end of the day. Like where are you going to process it and what can you process and how much data can you take? And one of the questions I usually get is like, oh, but are they taking all my packets into the cloud? No. All they take is headers. Like the most you are going to get out of that gets sent to the mist processing thing, unless it's PCAP that you initialize. You can get more data if you initialize some stuff. But like the default behavior is there's a reason why banks are rolling this out is because nothing leaves the premises that isn't metadata. So they're usually just looking at the headers and looking at that sort of information when it comes to processing client events and that sort of thing. Daniel, Thomas, I'm right about this so far, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, the only moment where we send more traffic to the cloud is when you are doing a manual pickup. It can be on the access point, on the switch, on the WAN. And in this case, you can select the size on the number of octets that you want to send to the cloud, if you want to truncate the packets or not. But other than that,
pretty much just and that comes back to it, like if let's say that all your backends just exploded all of a sudden, your network keeps running just fine because it's an overlay management, it's an overlay data analyst. They don't like it when I use that word. I'm supposed to say AI native, right? But like you can work, if you lose all access to, like all the fibers in Iceland get cut and I lose access to the global internet and I'm not able to call back to Mist, my site keeps running just fine because everything works independently. Mist is just on top doing the sugar and the config management. So long you won't be able to do config changes while the fibers are cut. But are you going to be doing config changes to the fiber cut? I don't think that's a realistic issue. But that's usually yeah.
Yeah, you can still do configuration changes on the SSR, SRX, and
EX. Yeah. You have bigger problems though. If you've lost global internet on the island, I'm not going to be running around messing with the switches. I'm going to be panicking that there are submarines coming for me.
All the volcanoes.
Oh, dude, I've lost fibers to volcanoes, man. It's not cool. Like they are trying to smite me, I tell you. Now, we have these beautiful platforms. We have the Marvis Minis. We have basically all this wonderful data. We have these virtual clients sitting on your network, running at either the AP and coming soon to the WAN, I believe. We have my favorite feature, which is dynamic packet capture. You get like, oh no, there's an error happening and something's weird's going on in my network. I'll have to go and recreate it now by sending a person down with a laptop to do a PCAP or something. Like they grab the actual error. And I once or twice had to deal with a camera manufacturer where I'm like, listen, your stuff is sending blah. And it got, I could just go into the portal, go download dynamic PCAP. I get all the headers. I don't get the actual data that was being transmitted. Enough to reconstruct that there was something silly going on. And that really shortens the conversation with things that are outside of Mist. Like all my problems are things usually that are outside of Mist. And that's a great place to be in. Like a lot better than having all my problems be everything, which they sometimes are. Now, we have covered the, REST API, really amazing, great. We've gone a little bit over the Python SDK. Again, it's a way to interact with that underlying API. The main thing I would advise listeners is the fact that they move really fast. Like if you knew something about Mist 6 months ago, chances are like it's either been heavily upgraded or changed in some manner. Like I would recommend every 3 months to set up a new org just from the scratch, because there's always, I can't even keep up with the patch notes sometimes, man. Like it's going too well. Now, anything that you would recommend, Thomas, for our listeners when it comes to starting their automation journey? Is there training or something like that, or just dive in? What are your thoughts?
Yes, so we have different places. So the first one is, we have the Open API specification portal, where we have different links to resources, to the application examples, to the SDKs, and so on. And we have a lot of documentation also on the Juniper documentation portal regarding automations, how to create, just how to start with API token, how to create the API token, and how to use it in the next request with Postman or with Python.
Beautiful. Now, we've taken both a big view of the platform. Urs, any questions for our wonderful guests? Some points of confusion, maybe? We've covered a lot in a very short time.
We covered a lot, and the short time was running really fast. Yeah, already. No, that's all good for me. I definitely have to take a look. I have some connection to university who would be interested to throw this at the students, just to show them how it could look. But yeah, I have to make my homework now. It's
Sure.
really nice to have you here. Thank you so much for the insights.
That's pretty much it. It's the university course. You show them the knack, the onboarding portal, like so they don't have to do the EduRoam stuff. It'll blow their mind. They'll start clapping. They will get into their chair and start clapping. I don't even understand what the problem is they're clapping over, but they just start screaming like, "Oh, the EduRoam! Oh, it's been solved. Yes, I don't have to run my own server. Oh, it's amazing! Ah!" And I just keep going like, "Wow, these are some Wi-Fi nerds over here, man. Like I do BGP, man. I do hardcore networking, man. Like, these are guys are nerds." And that's the best part. When I can run a Wi-Fi system and I'm not running a Wi-Fi system, that means it's the best one. So we've gone over all the things. We've gone way over time, dear listener. This was supposed to be a much shorter episode, but we just had so much fun. And we barely scratched the surface. There is endless possibilities inside of that platform. They keep changing every month. So whatever we said in this episode, you probably throw it out in a couple of months, because there's going to be a lot of changes happening. There's a lot of integrations happening. We didn't even talk about their third-party ecosystem and their integration with Ericsson's 5G equipment. There's just stuff upon stuff upon stuff that is happening inside of that platform. And it's been a real treat, at least for me, especially on the automation side. So, dear listener, I'd like to thank you guys for listening to this wonderfully long episode, and I'd like to thank Daniel and Thomas for joining us. And is there anything you guys want to leave our listeners with before we cut to the outro music?
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm truly excited to be part of your podcast. Thank you.
And yes, thank you for the podcast, Yeah, just as you said, just call some Juniper representative, and we can share on devices. You can create a free account on the Mist portal, and just test the solution, and you will see.
The proof is in the pudding. Everything looks good in a lab, but once you get it hands on and you get it running in the real world, that's kind of where Mist stands out, in my opinion. Now, I'd like to thank you, listeners, and we'll see you on the next episode of Network AutoMagic. And of course, we forgot the controversial opinion part because I am a mess of a host. Thomas, you're on Network AutoMagic. You got to come up with something controversial. Controversial opinion.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe not controversial, but I'm still seeing a lot of customers that are using the same approach as the legacy approach with SNMP, trying to gather as much of as data as possible to generate graph on a dashboard and this kind of stuff. Whereas when you are moving to the, let's say, new world with cloud through managed solutions, with AI to analyze information 24/7, to do the correlation and everything, you don't have to do this anymore on your side. You don't have to gather the information. You don't have to create the threshold to do the correlations. It's already done. You just need to listen for the webhooks, for the Marvis actions, for example, and as soon as Marvis is detecting an issue, it will send you the message. So it's easier for everyone, and it will be cheaper also to put in place. So instead of having a big database to solve everything, you just need to have some kind of webhook listener.
Wow. So hating on Thomas came on here to hate on SNMP. I'm sure you're going to receive some emails after this one. So feel free to reach out to Thomas and Juniper, tell them what you really think about your love of SNMP. I, for one, will not be condoning any violence, but you guys do you. I'm glad I haven't configured SNMP in such a long time. Version 3, version 2, I don't care. 2C, and then trying to desperately scrape some MIB, and then it gets badly implemented, and you just take in the webhook. But
Yeah.
to be fair, like to anyone still stuck on it, you're probably doing the best you can, and we love you for it. But there are better things available in the world. But maybe you don't need them. Maybe everything works great. But when they don't work great, you might want something better. So thank you for listening. And now comes the outro cut after the music. Okay, we didn't even talk about Marvis, like the Teams integration. You can talk to Marvis about troubleshooting stuff. We didn't get to any of that. Like we barely covered the API. So like we're gonna have to have a part 2 at some point, and we're gonna have to have a look at especially around the Marvis stuff. We screwed up. I'm sorry, because you could just
It's
go.
good.
You can go, dear
Yeah.
Marvis, troubleshoot my troubleshoot network, and he goes off and he goes, oh, these 3 users have been unhappy today. Why have they been unhappy? They haven't been able to reach this website. Why? DNS. Oh, and it correlates with this DNS outage, and he just tells you what's wrong. My God. But thank you for listening.